Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another live session. As always, is so happy to be here. I know it's been such a crazy year, and so as we hop into today's session, I kind of highlighted and called out that we were going to focus really heavily on job interview tips today, and I know that's kind of a generic catch-all title, but that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help anybody who's in this tricky landscape trying to navigate these tricky times when it comes to job interviews. And of course, I'm here to discuss everything from job search to resumes to LinkedIn. And everybody knows I'll spend a long time on LinkedIn if you allow me, or if that's part of the dialogue that we want to have today. I've been highlighting as we come into these lives this year, it's been really slow. Um, hey, James. And yeah, let me know. Say hello. Tell me where you're coming in from. These live sessions have been super sleepy this year. We're usually getting an audience of about 20 to 30 to 40 people at any given time. Again, it's very different. I always flash back to a year ago and bigger lives, more job openings, better economy, right? All things that are items that we want to be thinking about as we're talking about job search and any interview tips. So before we dive in, I'm just going to take a moment to prompt on a couple of items, and then we'll start talking about some tips. And as questions come in, I'm happy to answer them. I can spitball for a long period of time if need be. And these sessions are typically lasting an hour. I can already tell it's a small audience today, so it may be shorter today. Um, let's talk about it. So I did want to offer something special today, which is I usually don't give this heavy of a discount, but half off my course today. If you use the coupon code half, you can get that course at practiceinterviews.com. That's my interview mastery course. It's very robust. It might take you some time to get through, but again, just till 11:59 Pacific time today. If you use the coupon code half, you can get half off my course. I also do interview and negotiation coaching. For whatever reason, I'm getting a lot of negotiation clients lately, and that's obviously good news because that means that offers are coming through. We've seen, even though a lot of the items, especially in the US, but really globally, we've seen a lot of recession items. I've seen a little bit of an uptick in terms of the number of clients coming in terms of the number of YouTube views. So that's always a sign to me that things are picking up. It's very, very small, but it's an uptick on my end of what I've seen to maybe 10%, 15%. And so we'll take any uptick because remember, I've discussed this a number of times in the lives, but as an entrepreneur, we really typically have a great pulse on what's happening in the economy as people start to pull back, as people start to spend more. We typically see it first. So other items, if you go to practiceinterviews.com, there's a ton of free resources. We have the free Slack group. We're right about 4,000 members now. That's been sleepy too. Used to be a lot more comments, a lot more engagement. That's been slow. But if you have never joined our Slack group, it's 100% free, and I intend on keeping it that way. I also have 9 free resources on practiceinterviews.com, and those are killer resources. I like all those free resources. I really, really like the behavioral and open-ended templates. It's really going to help you craft your answers. Now we can be using ChatGPT for some other features, but I really, really like those too. All right, let's dive in. If you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, I go live 10 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday and new original content every Monday. You're going to start to see an uptick in the amount of YouTube shorts coming through very soon, I hope. I'm working with this company that uses AI, of course, to get more shorts out, to get more quick tips out to the community. Let's dive in. Thank you so much again for being here. Hi, James. Thanks for being here. Okay. Hi, Jeff. I believe it's not the resume or experience. It's more the scenario now. That's hitting all of us. Your opinion, please. Messaging from India. Thanks for being here late. I know that this is not a super friendly time for people living in India. So it's more the scenario now. We may need you to articulate this a little bit more. It is the resume. and it is the experience. I think that's an important part. We don't want to skip any of the steps, right? The steps are still critical. We still got to go and utilize the foundational items. The resume is important because now more than ever, these resumes are getting filtered through these ATS systems that have strong AI and ML capabilities. And so they're going to weed out resumes that don't hit on those keyword searches. And that's going to come both in your summary section and your experience. So I do think that's important for getting in the door. Sometimes it is the scenario, meaning right timing, which is everything in life, right? You happen to have a referral at a good company. I also think you create that scenario by creating a great LinkedIn profile. Look, I can double down on LinkedIn a million times and have nobody listen. And I really kind of poke on this item. Your LinkedIn profile's not optimized. I know it. I can go on anybody's LinkedIn profile, even the people who have 100,000 followers or over a million followers, and I'll find hiccups in their profile. And the reason why I double down on this, and I have kind of like this little bit of negative tone to it, is because look, I got my job at Google because I had a good LinkedIn profile. If that's not enough for people to be optimizing and spending time there, um, I really think it's a good reason to spend time there. Opportunities will come your way. So scenarios are always going to be a part of it, but I think all the basics are critical too. And I think one of the best ways to be found is LinkedIn without having to actively apply. Hopefully, people are coming and finding you. I hope that helps. If that doesn't answer your question, please let me know. Hey, Jeff, do you or anyone in the community have recent updates on Google's hiring, particularly in UX? It's frustrating not getting any team match week after week since last year. Haven't really seen an uptick in UX that I'm aware of. You know, you hear little whispers here and there, and we've doubled down on this quite a bit. I mean, I think UX is as important as anything else. If anybody's just not familiar with the term UX, user experience, right? Like we go into really user experience because it's so important. We want to put this heavy focus in on our users. But I haven't really seen an uptick, and the team match stuff is getting super frustrating for a lot of people. And the reality is that there is going to be a relatively large percentage of people at Google who are in the team match phase who don't get matched. And they go past their year, they don't care about the freeze, or they don't acknowledge the freeze, right? And you're going to have to re-interview. There's going to be less job openings forever, in my opinion. Again, I don't see a company like Google getting up to 4,000, 4,500 openings. Things are going to get too streamlined. There's too close of a look at the financials, but AI is just going to eliminate jobs. There's just not going to be a need for quite as many openings. So things are just constantly, as we move forward, going to get a little tighter. Just in my opinion, I really always hope with some of this stuff that I'm wrong, but I think we all can kind of see it. Hi, thanks for being here. Up, Vancouver, still on my Canada bucket list. I'm crossing off one in a month. I'll be in Toronto, so that's on my bucket list. In Vancouver, I actually had a trip planned there last year, had to cancel it, but Vancouver's on my bucket list, especially being on the West Coast. I got to make it up there. All right, James, email me. Let's see if we can get you a little discount. Okay. Jeff at practiceinterviews.com. How can one join the Slack group? Practiceinterviews.com, free resources, and then you can join the Slack group from there. James, just again, email me, okay? Made it in time. Woohoo. Okay. Thanks for being here. Hey, Jeff, thanks for being here with us. Hope you're doing well. Thank you. Hey, Jeff, you mentioned in your course that your total answer length using the STAR method should be about 3 to 4 minutes total. Yep. Let's see if there's a second part to that. And then is it advisable to first ask permission after the situation and task portion of your answer and then proceed to the actions and results? Okay, let me just see, James, if there's a third part of this. Okay, so let's go back to this item. I love 3 to 4 minutes. You're not going to see a lot of that guidance online, right? You're going to see a lot of guidance that leans towards 1 to 2 minute answers. The challenge with a 1 to 2 minute answer, in my opinion, is I literally learn nothing about you. To set up the action, to set up the situation, to give me the results, that's going to take a little bit of time. So in 1 minute, I literally learn nothing. You can give me maybe one action. In 2 minutes, you don't give me any depth in your actions. So at 3 to 4 minutes, 30-second situation task, 30 seconds in results, that gives me at least 2 minutes in the actions phase to learn more about you and what you did. When we talk about actions, it's really critical to double down on the what's and how's. What did you do and how did you do it? What did you do and how did you do it? So each major action has supporting actions. That's going to be the most critical. And people, like, you'll see all this feedback online. It's like, oh, well, people fall asleep. They're not listening. They're not paying attention. No, if you're organized, articulate, and bringing in great visuals, they're going to hang out and pay attention. So let's go to the second part of your question. So I do not like pauses in behavioral answers ever. And here's why. Interviewers can just kind of interrupt you or say, great, let's move on. And you haven't told them anything yet. So never pause between the situation and task and actions. Just go right into it. That's the intent. That's what they should be prepared to hear. If they've been trained at all, they should have been trained on STAR, CAR, PAR. All these are driving towards what is the setup, what's that situation, what are the actions, and what are the results. But no, never ever build in space, because I don't want them to throw a random curveball at you. Like, we're thinking about our answer, we're thinking about that critical pivot point, and we're getting into the actions. I hope that helps. I'm wondering if the different applied to the interview consulting, wondering if the different I think discount. I believe that's what you're saying, Osama. I'm wondering if the discount applies to interview consulting services as well. It does not. I give discounts on my course. I'll just be very candid with the audience. I do not discount my individual time. It's just not something I do. Now, I have been more flexible in working with clients when they purchase multiple sessions to bring the overall price point down if you book multiple sessions, because I do want to be flexible and realize what's going on with the economy, but usually not discounts for a single or maybe a couple sessions. Is Workday considered an ATS system that will reject without the correct keywords in your resume? Absolutely. Yeah. Now, for the organizations that have chosen Workday as their ATS, uh, my personal opinion is that that's a mistake. Workday is an HR tool. They're not an ATS tool, but they can and do have that feature and facet. It's just not very good from what I've heard. I've only used Workday on an HR perspective, so I can't say with 100% authority. This is just based on context and feedback that I've gotten that it's not a great ATS, but all ATSs now should be able to filter on keywords. That's correct. Hi, Jeff. My recruiter informed me they're considering me for an L4 TPM. With 18 years of real relevant experience, I was expecting at least an L5. Any suggestions on how I can take this up with the recruiter? Okay. This is a great question. So 18 years really shouldn't be a 4 unless you spent a number of those years in just totally irrelevant, not related roles. But yeah, at 18 years of experience, you need to push back on your recruiter and say, at 18 years of experience, I would be thinking that I'd be targeting an L6 or L7 role. I'd be open to considering an L5, but I'm wondering why I'd be considered for a more junior level role based on my years of experience. Nice pitch, nice tone, phone conversation ideally. But if they're setting you up as a 4, you're going to go in with a 4 panel, meaning you probably have a couple of L4s, a couple of L5s. You want to be giving yourself the opportunity to at least be considered at a 5. So you could just push back and say, hey, I'd really like to be considered at a 5. Can we make sure the panel is set up for a 5? And then if you need to down level me to a 4, it's something I'll consider. I think some sort of pitch and tone like that. When this YouTube video rolls through and can be rewatched, maybe rewatch this answer just a little bit. We're at the what time? What time are we at here? Oh, we're at the 15-minute mark about. So go back, watch this, maybe to work on that a little bit of that scripting. But that's kind of how I would say it because 18 years of experience, you get in a hiring committee. If you have 18 years of relevant experience, I'm going to be like, I'm not hiring this person as an L4 and I'm just going to bounce them out or I bounce you out. So very, very important conversation to have before the interviews start. Okay, totally agree. I'm not sure with what at this point, but okay. James, we covered that question. Okay, so you finished an interview with the director, and HR told me they'll get back in 3 days. Been over a week and haven't heard back. I emailed them 2 days ago and nada. Safe to say I didn't get it? Nope. No, we never want to make that assumption. So they said they'd get back in 3 days. It's been over a week and you haven't heard back. So you emailed them 2 days ago. So we maybe emailed them Sunday or early yesterday, right? Um, just wait. I would say follow up again late Thursday, early Friday morning, and just make sure the tone is gracious and kind, right? Hey, I'm still excited. I just wanted to follow up again to find out about my tenure, or sorry, not my tenure, my candidacy. I don't know where that word came from. I wanted to email, find out a little bit more about my candidacy. Hope you're having a great week. Thanks. You're going to keep doing that. See, so one of the things that I like to do in these scenarios, ghosting is common. The chances of a candidate getting ghosted from all the feedback I've seen, I mean, it's at least a 10% chance, maybe it's 15 or 20%. So I like to make the point of contact feel the pain of their inactivity. So we've talked a lot about this. I'm really tough on recruiters. I think I'm allowed to be because I've done recruiting for over 15 years. So I think I could be tough on them. If you don't hear back, and this is my recommendation to anybody here, if you don't hear back, I would continue to touch base once a week and just be gracious and kind and do it week after week after week. I want them to feel the pain of not following up with you. Now, again, we're getting way ahead of ourselves. They could just be slow. They could be considering other candidates. They should have responded to you, of course, because that's terrible candidate experience. This organization doesn't really know how to provide a good candidate experience. Welcome to the world. Even the best companies in the world do this. But late Thursday, early Friday. Sorry for my tangent, but just some things for the audience to consider. Okay, another one. Hey, Jeff, it's been 2 weeks since my final interviews. You reached out to the recruiter at the end of the week, and all I got was so far, so good. Is it appropriate to reach out again, or do I just wait for the recruiter to contact me? I'm trying to be patient. Reached out to the recruiter at the end of the first week. If it's been 3 to 5 more business days, which it sounds like it has, Raymond, I would follow up again. I definitely like so far, so good is just honestly, it's just pathetic communication. It's somebody who's really, really struggling with their communication skills. So far, so good is nothing. I would say I'm still waiting on all feedback. All feedback is in. We're exploring. You're one of 3 candidates that we're exploring. I'll get back to you in 3 days, 5 days, 2 weeks. I would give you a much better communication because this is just, again, this is creating a poor candidate experience for you. This creates anxiety, this creates stress, and it's absolutely absurd and ridiculous. So I'm sorry because it's just not acceptable. But I would absolutely follow up. If it's been at least 3 business days, follow up again. Anything over 5 business days, where typically that's a good cadence. Like nobody can get annoyed at us for following up every 5 business days when we're in the interview process. Come back, let us know how it goes. You're welcome. Can you please share some tips on LinkedIn profile optimization you just mentioned? Oh boy, people, let's see if the numbers start dropping on a LinkedIn profile. Let's really talk about it. Treat your LinkedIn profile like a call to action. What does that mean? When I land on your profile, what do you want me to do there? What's the story? What are you trying to tell me? What is the goal that you want to achieve when people land on your profile? For me, I want you to land on my profile, know exactly what I do, and know exactly how to get to my website, purchase my services, check out my YouTube channel. Those are the things I'm really trying to push towards. I want you to check out my free resources. Just go to my website and go to my YouTube. That's where I'm going to devote. That's where I'm going to give you the most value. So my CTAs push you in that direction. So let's go really high level. Your LinkedIn background photo, biggest mistake I see on across all LinkedIn is the lack of utilization of that photo. Canva.com, it will set this specific criteria, put that call to action. If you're open to work, what is the exact type of role you're looking for? And even your contact information in there. Again, you can create that in Canva. If you're a software engineer at a cool company, you're going to brand your company up there. If you are actively looking for maybe a software engineering job, you might put some cool code in there, but again, put what type of job you're looking for. So use the LinkedIn background photo as a CTA. Smiling picture, shoulders and above. If it's not shoulders and above, it's not professional. If the background isn't clean, it's not professional. Remove.bg will clean the background for you. And then shoulders and above, which gets your face in there. Then smiling. Okay. Smiling is absolutely critical. We respond well to a smile. When I smile, you might be smiling on the other end of this live and not even realize why you're smiling, but it's because I'm smiling. It's natural. That's science, right? So make sure the picture is smiling. Your headline after your last name, comma, your role or the role you're looking for. That builds in space so you can have a really good headline that talks about the roles you hire for. What's your current role? What's your specialty? Then turn on creator mode. If you just scroll down a little bit, creator mode will allow you to add a website right at the top. So if I'm a recruiter, I'm going to send people to my careers page. If I really like my company, I'm going to send them to my company page. If I have a business, I'm going to send them to my business. Then there's another opportunity up top. Just make sure that your education and your company are also at the top on the right side. Make sure your contact information is all up to date. You can also add in types of services you provide, job openings that you have at your company that can all be added up top. I want to have such a clear picture of what I want to do on your profile without scrolling at all. Then there's the about section. I don't think that's quite as important, but utilize that as a keyword search. So put a lot of your keywords, especially if you're open to work or open to finding a new position. In your experience, you are going to see so much data and feedback that says, make it different from your resume. That is absolutely terrible advice, in my opinion. LinkedIn is a keyword search tool, and that's how people will find you. So you drop your resume bullets into your experience. It only takes about 3 minutes to do that. And then it looks nice and clean. Obviously, you want to make sure those bullets are really clean. The rest of it, not as important. Make sure you get your education in there. If you're older like me, I scrap out my education dates, get your recommendations. All that other stuff is less important. Get the top of the page right so that people will scroll down. I did a recent video on this. If you go to my YouTube channel, I did a recent video on LinkedIn profile optimization. It's the missing piece of the puzzle. I don't get it. Sometimes I feel like an absolute crazy person for trying to tell people that these are all the things you need to do. But the reality is these things will mean more reach outs, more connections, more opportunities. I know that was long-winded. I hope that helped. All right. 9 days. Follow up. The biggest thing when we follow up is we should be upset. Haven't heard back for 9 days. I mean, come on. That's just pathetic, right? That's ridiculous. Like there should be systems, there should be balances, systems, balances, things in check, right? That just make it really easy to stay organized. Any candidate I had in process is going to hear back from me before that period of time. It's just because it's too easy not to follow up with candidates if you're organized at all. So, follow up, just be really gracious and kind, still excited and engaged. Looking forward to hearing more about the opportunity. Can you tell me my current status? Thank you so much. So just massive amounts of gratitude and appreciation. Sometimes there's a little bit of frustration. So we just kind of Maybe we write that frustrated email and then we delete it. We just make sure it's very gracious and kind. Good luck. Come back and let us know, but definitely send that email right now. Hi, Jeff. Do you foresee AI eliminating software engineering developer jobs too? 100%. Yep, 100%. I think that we've already seen it. It doesn't mean that you're going to eliminate all the jobs, but if you have somebody who can fix the code quicker by utilizing AI, which we all know is improving on a daily basis, I don't need that specific engineer to spend that much time diving in and trying to fix the code. Now, I understand there's some messaging. If you haven't seen Clement on YouTube, he's got a huge following. It's probably like 400,000 subscribers. It's Clement, and he's a former, I think, former Meta and Google guy, and he goes kind of through the experiment. It's a really great video. But yeah, I think that software engineers' jobs are in huge trouble. And look, I put a lot of polls out there to get a pulse on LinkedIn to see, do people really understand the reality of AI? So I asked that question on LinkedIn. I got hundreds of responses, and it's like 75% thought that no software engineering jobs would be eliminated because of AI, but all jobs, especially desk jobs, are going to be eliminated to some extent because of AI. I think engineering is in real trouble, and I don't think that that's a great long-term career. I could be completely wrong, but I just see AI and automating code and fixing the bugs and enhancing the code. It's going to be pretty easy with AI in the near future. Again, I'm not an engineer, so I might be speaking like a crazy person, but I think AI will eliminate, especially some of the more junior level engineering roles. I think they're going to go away. Yes, discount. Um, you had uploaded a video. Sorry for the pause. You'd upload a video on how to answer. Tell me about a time when you had a disagreement with your employer. I'm unable to recall such an incident. What should I do in that case? Fantastic question. Um, it may not have been a disagreement, but you've definitely had a time where maybe you had a varying opinion or a varying idea or wanted to take a slightly different approach. It doesn't have to be quite a really stumbling on my words today. It doesn't have to be quite as negative as a disagreement, like disagreement conflict. Sometimes it's just a varying opinion. You proposed even a different option. And so my fake interviewer, is Sue. So we might set that up with Sue, right? And with Sue, we basically say, hey, Sue, I don't really have a disagreement per se, but I had a time where I offered a varying opinion. Is it okay if I use that example? You're rarely going to get an interviewer who says no, if ever. So just set it up that way, because if you just go in and answer, it's not really a disagreement. It may be your answer may be a little bit confusing for them. So just set it up. Hey, it was a differing opinion, a differing idea. Is it okay if I use that example? Soft tone. Okay, and then you go into it. Anytime we get one of these behavioral questions and we're like, oh, I don't have a great example. What's the theme of the question? Tell me about a time you had a disagreement. So it's just the disagreement is, tell me about a time you just had a differing opinion perspective, as you kind of put in the note there. Just change it up a little bit. There is absolutely no way that in your entire career you didn't think a little bit differently from an approach. And again, you're just looking for the option where you actually voiced your opinion, worked on best practices, took some action to get your opinion, um, to push your opinion through, basically. I hope that helps. If you have any more questions, let me know. Yeah, James, thanks for being here. With 10 years SWE, I went back to uni to get advanced degree in ML. I have some ML experience, but I would like to get more. Would it be odd for an older candidate to apply to an internship at big tech? No, no, I don't. I think that sometimes, uh, I think sometimes people in their careers are scared to take a step back. And sometimes that can be really, really valuable. So I think as long as you're telling a story, it may require slightly more networking for them to look at you as a potential intern. I think it's fine. And by the way, in 2010, I took an entry level recruiting job. I had 10 years of experience. I'm not all in recruiting. I had done a lot in banking. I had done a bunch of different things. But I basically took an entry level job in my young 30s to say, look, I need to pivot. I need to make sure that I'm progressing my career forward. It was one of the best moves I ever made because I met like one of my biggest mentors in the recruiting space and just in general there. They really helped me develop some good best practices, which led to my next corporate job. And that because I had that corporate job, I was able to land the job at Google. So sometimes taking a step back can actually progress our career faster. It's just having that right mental mindset. So great question. I think it's worth trying. It's always worth trying. We're at the 30s. Just want to pitch my services really quickly. Special offer today, half off the interview mastery course, just till 11:59 Pacific time today. If you use the coupon code HALF, HALF, and I do one-on-one negotiation coaching, one-on-one interview coaching, and tons of free resources, free Slack group, all at practiceinterviews.com. If you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, I go live 10 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday. I'll announce if I can't go live, and then new original content every Monday. And I am going to be doing a push towards more shorts coming up, just because it's an opportunity for the audience to just get some really quick tips. I also built out a corporate channel. It's available on my regular YouTube channel. If you scroll to the bottom, that's going to be a slow one. I don't think it's going to get the same amount of subs and views, but I think the content on there is good. That's focused in on hiring processes and interview strategies for corporations. I didn't get to the open-ended portion of the course yet. Do you cover the cadence of clarifying questions? For example, asking them 5 questions in one blurb versus asking one, getting an answer back, and then asking another clarifying question. Yeah, you'll get to part of the cadence there. Remember, with any cadence item, and this is just important for the community and audience, any cadence item, we're really trying to mirror our audience and read their body language and see what they're giving off, right? Because with clarifying questions, even at a company like a Google, right, that says on their careers page, we want you to clarify, we want you to ask questions. Then you get into the interview and the interviewer is mad and upset that you're asking questions. So much of that cadence depends on them. If they're very open in answering questions, pause between questions to give them that space. But typically, we're asking 1 or 2 questions with a pause and then maybe grouping questions. It can create better flow, but really read the body language of your audience, see what they're giving off. And then, of course, if they say, James, I hate questions, don't ask questions. We're going to change our questions just in the thought process. So if before it was, are we focusing in on are we focusing in on internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, or both? You would just change that to, yeah, I'd be thinking about my audience, internal or external stakeholders, or both. And then you just move on to the next question, but it's not a question. You've changed it into thought process. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. How is everyone asking questions with their LinkedIn icon? How is everyone asking questions with their LinkedIn icon? Is there another way besides YouTube to live chat to ask questions? Yeah, so I go live on. So this tool is called StreamYard, and I'm like all the other pretty much YouTube creators. We use a third-party platform to stream our content for our live streams. So what StreamYard allows me to do is go live on YouTube and LinkedIn at the same time, and it's not great from a YouTube perspective. Like YouTube would probably get more views and be better for me if I just stayed on YouTube. But I like hitting that LinkedIn community, especially if you land on my profile and you can see I'm going live right now. So if you just go into my profile, the background is actually me going live. I hope that answers your question, but I'm live on both platforms at the same time. Hey, Jeff. Google hiring for fresher software engineer roles. There are no fresher software engineer roles on the careers page for 3 months. Will they hire again in the coming months? Maybe. Maybe. I don't know for sure. I mean, I think we'll see a little bit of it. I think just the price point and the value of a potential fresher coming in as a software engineer could be beneficial, but I think that again, I think for fresher software engineers or anybody who's an undergrad or a master's or a PhD program that's focused in on engineering, my strong recommendation is to double down in AI and ML as much as you possibly can, because I think that's where the trends are going. But I think the trend is going to absolutely be less hiring at the more junior level for now and the foreseeable future. Um, so you just got to get creative. And maybe that's not getting into Google. Maybe that's getting into another company to just get some experience. Because I haven't seen a lot of hiring at the junior level role. Even L3, L4s at Google has been pretty slim as far as I know. Okay. So what is the average salary for an L2 data engineer technician at Google in Columbus, Ohio? Okay. So there are no external hires at L2. As far as I know, it starts at L3. Um, so remember the formula. If you haven't seen that video, go to the negotiation playlist. What I always do is I look at levels.fyi, I look at what a software engineer makes, and then for a less technical role like a data center tech, I would take that salary in a like or similar market and times it times 70%. It's going to be an accurate description of what you're going to get paid. But let's just go L3 data center tech in Columbus. Your base is going to be under 100K total comp. May get up to 100K all in with a bonus and equity. But it's going to be on the lower end. Again, that's still higher when you look at the median salary for somebody in the US, but under 100K. But L3, I don't believe they're hiring externally L2. Is it good to prepare for fresher software engineering roles at tech companies or learn new technologies and wait a few months to find new jobs in the latest technologies as a fresher? Please suggest. Um, Hands-on, there's nothing that really beats hands-on experience. So whether you're trying to apply into big tech companies, if you can find those jobs, or startups or other like jobs, I say get in and get hands-on, and then you can learn new technologies that excite you and interest you on the side, the evenings, the weekends, but start to get that hands-on experience because while while just learning new tech can be good, learning to work with others, having these great examples as you go into future interviews of how you collaborate and work with other colleagues, how you face challenges on the job is going to be critical. So I would just say get after the job piece and just constantly be learning at the same time. So do it in correlation. I just got the call and offer while you were answering. Okay, so let's talk about this. So Raymond, let's see. I'm gonna scroll back here. So we don't have all the details. You don't have to share. Obviously, this is confidential. Um, with the offer, negotiate. Right. We're always going to negotiate. We're always going to try and come in and anchor high. One of the things I like to mention though is we've got to know a little bit about the company, right? Like sometimes companies get really upset when you go high with the numbers, but you should always negotiate. Never accept the initial offer. Doesn't always mean you'll get more. Really depends on the company, but you got to understand the landscape too. Like, is this negotiable because it's a little below expectations, right? If the setup is with a smaller company and you don't really know, soft tone, companies will rescind offers if you go big. So just again, knowing that background can be really, really important. Congrats. It was meant to be. So let us know how things are going. Let's scroll down. Thanks for all your videos. They played a key in the role. Ready to schedule. Okay, please. Yeah, negotiating is really, really critical. I think I still maybe have one session left later today if you want to hop on my calendar today. If not, I definitely have some times early tomorrow morning. Would you please guide me and suggest how to manage time during the job seeking process? For instance, one day focus in on applying for PM jobs, then another day just be dedicated to networking. Okay. For me, oops, sorry, I scrolled too far. Okay, sorry. This other one got cut off. We can go to the full comment. For me, it's hard to manage all those actions at the same time. Appreciate all your support. Absolutely. So you are tapping into something that so few people are even thinking about is the plan. Come up with a plan. So when I look and talk to anybody who's in like job seeking mode, one, it depends on whether you're actively have a job, like have children, have a dog, have things that you need to take care of, but have a plan for setting aside time on a daily basis, once a week, twice a week, three times a week. That to me, just carving out and staying dedicated to that time, that's one. If you have a lot of time, I recommend a heavier double down on LinkedIn and networking. You absolutely want to make sure your resume is 100% up to date. You absolutely want to make sure your LinkedIn profile is great before going out and networking. But that's where I would spend the majority of my time. Yes, of course, we're going to apply to roles. I don't love it, but it's a way to cast a wide net. I would just say when you see these people who said they applied to hundreds and hundreds of roles, that's not a good strategy. But applying to very specific roles where you have a strong interest, and remember, if you are applying to roles, I cannot emphasize enough that every role you apply for should have a different resume. So, what do I mean by that? Everything in your resume stays the same. It's just the summary section. Change out the summary section to align with the job description. You can use ChatGPT for that, right? But just make sure your summary section is aligned to the role. You're more likely to hit the keywords in the ATS if you do that. That should take about 3 to 5 minutes for each time you apply to a job. Save it as that job, that company, that date. So then you just have a whole bank of resumes. But if you're not willing to take that action, I would say, like, don't be applying. Um, just my 2 cents, but applying much less time, networking much more time. Okay. I hope that helps. Thank you so much. Been great help. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. I've asked my interviewers from the past two, three interviewers, I've asked my interviewers from the past two or three interviews what I can do better. And they say, you can be a little bit more confident, but I do feel confident and I don't know where the problem lies. And there is a way to uncover this. Practice with another human being. They'll let you know. And go with your closest friends, your family members, the people you trust the most. Go throw the job description into ChatGPT, say ChatGPT create 10 behavioral and 10 hypothetical questions. Don't even look at them. Just copy and paste, send them to your friend or family member and say, I'd like to practice some of these questions with you. I haven't looked at them. I want you to pick, and then I want you to really focus in on my confidence. Focus in on my confidence and tell me where I'm lacking confidence. You're going to get that great feedback, but ask the people you trust the most to be the most honest with you, because we all know we have friends who sugarcoat things or family members who won't be 100% transparent. Go to the people who will be and ask them for that specific item. Now, confidence sometimes has nothing to do with our words. It has a lot to do with how we stand, our how we stand, head up, shoulders back, eye contact. So you may be very confident, but you look down quite a bit, which to them can feel like a lack of confidence, right? So just something to keep in mind. But definitely practice with other people. They're going to be the most honest with you, and this is something that all of us career coaches talk about. You do not have to practice with a professional. Of course, I recommend it. I have done so many one-on-one sessions. I've had a great opportunity and been very fortunate to learn. But just practicing with anybody is going to help you get better because of the repetition, but also hopefully you work with honest people who are going to give you real feedback. At Kirk, desire to learn and love learning is such a huge selling point for yourself. Yeah. And go in with that learning mindset. And remember, sharing learnings also can be very valuable at the end of a behavioral answer. It has to make sense and be clean. So when I used to coach heavily on learnings, I've backed off of that a little bit. If you're going to add a learning in at the end of your behavioral answer, just make sure it's really good and concise. When you think about the end of any behavioral answer, you're getting to the end. Your interviewer is like naturally ready to move on. So just make sure that if you do provide learnings, and again, I'm kind of going off track here, but if you do provide learnings at the end of your behavioral answers, they're short and concise. Think 15 seconds or less. And by the way, hi, Tina. Thank you for being here. Okay. Comp for a CEL5 in Phoenix and NYC and where to anchor. Those are two very different markets, right? Okay. So, with Phoenix L5, um, I'm trying to think of my latest CEs. Like I anchor pretty high for CEs. What I've seen, and I just like, let's take a step back. More recent CE offers have not been nearly as good. Like if we were talking about CE offers a year ago, they were much stronger, have a ton of CE data points, probably at least 30 CE negotiation clients. And I've noticed a downward trend over the last 6 months. So what I would have said even 6 months or a year ago is going to be different now. I mean, if I'm anchoring for an L5 CE in Phoenix, I'm probably high threes and definitely in New York, I'm probably up into the mid fours. But, again, I haven't seen the offers be that great. I still want you to go high as much as you can. But those would be some recommendations. So probably up into the mid fours, 440s for New York, and maybe 380s, 390s for Phoenix. You can definitely go higher, but again, the offers haven't been that great lately. Hi. Recruiter suggested opening up location preferences for SWE team match. Do openings come out every month or continuously? Wondering if I should hold out for current location a bit longer before expiration. Such a personal decision and choice. Opening up location preferences is strongly recommended if you have flexibility. For example, you don't have kids, you don't have a mortgage, you don't have a pet, and you can just kind of get up and go. That's going to be your best case scenario. It's they open up continuously as it's needs based, but think about what's the value of one of these roles at one of these companies, right? That should be your driving force. And if you do have flexibility, you should reload again. And I think most of the people who watch the lives know my story that I reload from San Diego up to San Jose. That's not a huge reload, but it's still a relocation, right? It's still a totally different market. And so I took the opportunity, but I had a lot of flexibility in my life to do so. I also took not a full-time job, but a consulting role. I wasn't full-time and I took that risk as well. So that's a risk that I think people should take. But again, that's up to you. And I see, yeah, for US locations, of course, it's going to be the biggest market for you to have options. And they're probably going to drive you towards the hubs, right? Bay Area, New York, maybe Austin, for example. Hi, Jeff. Does learning ML get job for freshers as ML engineer, AI engineer in tech companies? Computer engineering graduate, possibly to get internships. Please name some companies. You could get an internship as an ML or AI even if that wasn't your specialty, but I would imagine that people who specialized in that would have a better opportunity. I can't name all the companies, unfortunately, because I don't know who's hiring for those jobs now. But if you find the big tech companies, I recommend it for a pay perspective and a branding perspective and a learning perspective. I think those are three good reasons. But ultimately, again, I think going back to my earlier comment, like I would just be trying to get a job to make sure that you continue to learn and grow. And it's not just about the technical skills, it's about the interpersonal skills, because typically the engineers that have the strongest communication skills are the ones that excel the most in their career. Do you have any recommendations for behavioral questions for apprenticeship programs at Google? There's not much available for apprenticeship interviews. When you come across any apprenticeship job description, just throw it into ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, create 50 behavioral questions from this job description. They're not all going to be perfect, but that's the easiest path. It literally takes little to no work. And then you're just going to practice those types of questions. For apprenticeship programs at Google, the interviews are going to lean behavioral. That's typically what I've seen. That's the feedback I've gotten. I never recruited for those roles, but that's what I consistently heard. Do U.S. companies hire Canadian citizens working in Canada? Um, yes. A lot of the jobs tend to be Toronto. So a U.S. company can have openings in Toronto. Of course, there's some in Vancouver as well. Vancouver has some tech. See less of it in a big city like Montreal. But Toronto tends to be the hub just because it's obviously the biggest city in Canada. So I just see most of the positions being in Toronto. But yeah, U.S. companies hire globally, but they're not going to take you for a U.S. position like Bay Area and allow you to work remote in Canada. Um, that's They can allow you to work remote in the US, but if it's a US based job, you would need to be in the US. The good news is a lot of these big tech companies, and there's just a lot of tech in Canada already. I hope that helps. Okay. Yep. Tina's our rock star who shows up here and is very gracious and kind to share positive thoughts always. You are welcome. Awesome. Lots of thank yous. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. We're 51 minutes in, or about 52 minutes in. So I'm going to wait on some additional questions. I'll try and go to about an hour. And then if any questions come in, I'm happy to answer them. So, job interview tips. Let's talk about one that I don't talk about a lot, but it's just a big challenge for almost every person. Slow down. There is no way that you are going to give the best answers possible if you don't go slower. Your brain just will not be able to optimize the information, and therefore, you're not going to be giving the best answers. When I work with clients, this is a major challenge for them. I work with clients who we do multiple sessions, and I always tell them to slow down, but it's just our natural response is to answer. But let's talk about it on both sides of the coin. So, on the behavioral side, you really want to focus in on the pivot point. What is the question actually asking? And where should you start your actions? So, if you always are starting your actions with what the question is asking, you're going to have a way more success. So, that's a huge tip to just slow down on the behavioral side. Now, on the open ended side, you have to slow down to come up with a strategy. If you are answering your hypothetical or open ended question in a second or less, which is 95% of people, there's no way you're going to come up with a great answer. So, in that time where you slow down, we always tell our interviewer so that there's no confusion. We don't just stop. We say, Sue, I'm going to take a minute to gather my thoughts. I'm going to take a few seconds to collect my ideas, however you want to say it. And then on the hypothetical side, basically what you're doing is you're saying, okay, what's unclear? You've written the question down, maybe restated the question. What's unclear about the question? What are the ambiguities? You maybe even want to circle a couple words. That's going to take you 15 or 20 seconds to say, okay, this, and this don't seem right. You're going to go to your cheat sheet. You're already going to have your go-to clarifying questions. Then you're going to say, what's the strategy here? Do I want to focus in on data or goals or resources or budget? Just kind of think through that a little bit. Then the big part is assumptions. How are you going to make role specific assumptions? Again, this is all on your cheat sheet. This is a part of your plan is pre-planned assumptions, and we can pre-plan assumptions. We know what's required in the role. What are the pre-planned assumptions you're going to use? Then you can dive into your answer. because the lack of taking time for hypothetical questions is an absolute killer. If you just slow down a little bit, you'll do much, much better. So, taking your time, practice taking a minute, have a Google stopwatch up, have your phone up, and just practice taking a minute. That piece of advice, it's not shared enough, but our brains just aren't that good. Okay. So, critical data point. All right, we'll come back to some more tips if we run out of questions. I'm going to go back to questions. Hey, Jeff, thank you so much for continuing to do these lives. Any advice on skills to highlight when shifting from product to program management? You're still having trouble getting traction at G, okay, on the product side, but there are roles that seem like they'd be a fit on the program management side. My recruiter agreed and asked me to send the roles I found that I thought would be fits. When moving from product to program, um, there's a lot of correlation of the things you're doing. So you're doing a lot of like planning on one side, strategy on the other side. You're thinking about things like budget and timeline and who are the critical stakeholders and how am I resourced? And you're thinking about the overall quality. What is the data that we're building off of? What is that initial goal? So they are very transferable, product to program to project management. They have a lot of transferable skills. So be thinking about leading even with that product mindset, but what were the programmatic items? Please let me know if that helped. I hope it did. Can you pretend like you're being interviewed and how you would take an actual pause to think through something? Yeah. So I'm here, and then I'm gonna say, okay, Sue, what you're asking is X. Is that correct? Sue, my fake interviewer is always Sue. Sue, I'm gonna take 1 minute to gather my thoughts. Thanks so much. And then I go heads down and I start writing out my notes. I have my cheat sheet down below. So I have a blank piece of paper with a pen and I have my cheat sheet and I'm kind of thinking through it and I'm writing it down. But that's the cadence. The cadence is just restating, making sure you have the question and saying, I'm going to take a minute to gather my thoughts. Sometimes the taking a minute creates some fear. Like, is the interviewer just going to stare at me? Interviews are remote. Even if they're not remote, the vast majority of interviewers are taking notes in a computer. So they're going to lose track of that minute. They're going to start checking their email, the sports score. What are they grabbing for lunch? What are their weekend plans? They're going to text somebody. They don't care. The biggest thing to keep in mind is, are you stopwatching yourself? Do you have a good pulse on how long you're taking? Because a minute's not that awkward. That's going to allow them to look at 1 to 2 emails, for example. But when we start to get to a minute and a half, 2 minutes, they're going to start to feel like it's been a long time. So just stopwatch yourself. But 1 minute is great. It really will provide a lot of clarity for you. Some interviewers will down tick you a little bit for taking your time, but your answers are going to be so much better than your competition that small down tick is well worth it for the huge uptick you get when you have a great answer. Will they say something if they see you writing or looking down? If they say, what are you doing? You say, I'm writing some notes. Is that okay? If they say you can't take notes, say, would you like me to share my notes in a Google Doc, or how would you like me to share my notes when I collect my thoughts? I just like to write a couple of items down as I'm trying to prepare my answer. The interviewer, like, let's just call it out. The interviewer has to be a jerk if they ask you that. You said you're going to take your time. Clearly, you're writing notes. Sometimes to remove any of that ambiguity, you'll put your pen in your hand and say, I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to take a few notes and then I'll come back to you. And so you start to write it down. But you don't know the questions. I mean, you can't really be cheating. You have your cheat sheet, but those are just high level concepts or ideas, right? So it's pretty impossible to cheat in an interview. Now, I guess with code, you could be throwing it into ChatGPT or doing other things nowadays, but to get the ideal answer, You're just going to say, hey, I'm handwriting out some notes. Interviewers who get really upset by that, ugh, they're just a bad interviewer. By the way, there's tons of them out there, but I wouldn't normally expect that. Yeah, you don't preface it. I would just say, all right, I'm going to collect my thoughts, but sometimes having the pen in your hand can be a good indication, like, hey, you're writing some notes. Okay, awesome. Thank you for doing this. Also, what if even after taking my time, I'm entirely blank and my brain cells have officially dropped? How do I handle such a situation? You won't get into that situation if you create a cheat sheet, because the cheat sheet will inform you of a path. So, what goes on the cheat sheet? It's two sides of the coin. So, most of your cheat sheet is for hypothetical or open ended answers. You're going to have some go to clarifying questions that make sense for your role, right? So, for program manager, I might be asking, what stage of the program are we in, beginning, middle, or end? Are we working with internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, or both? What's the timeline to create this program? Is it 1 month, 1 quarter, 1 year? Just some really basic questions. You're going to have those written down. So that's the first item. Then with your frameworks, you're going to have go-to concepts that you love to talk about all the time. I'm a goals and data person. So I'm going to double down on those concepts all the time. What is the goal and what is that historical data, right? And then I love looking at something like risk as well. So those are my go-to concepts. So you're just going to have your go-to concepts written down. You could have a framework as lean as 3 concepts that you know you can always talk about. Pre-planned assumptions. This sounds weird. Let's talk about it. I am going to go in with a plan for assumptions. All right, so let's talk about it. So what does that mean? It means that I've been a technical recruiter or a recruiter for a lot of my career. So my pre-planned assumptions are I'm going to assume that I have to staff up an office, for example. So I'm going to have a little bit more specific, like, let's assume I need to hire 50 engineers in an office in an office we don't already exist in 1 month. That might be one assumption. Another assumption I might make is that I have to come up with a creative strategy to source a specific type of candidate, etc. These are scenarios that I know are going to come up in the job. So if you have your pre-planned assumptions, you won't get blank because you can kind of force feed those assumptions into that part of your answer. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a lot of information on my YouTube. This may be a little bit confusing and like a little too abstract, but the reality is that you look at a job description and you can either think about it or you can use ChatGPT and say, hey, ChatGPT, what are the 5 major themes of this job? Have the 5 major themes get thrown back at you and then just create assumptions for those themes. What are some potential scenarios that you're going to face in the job? Pre-planned assumptions are an absolute game changer. It removes your brain from going entirely blank and not working. The cheat sheet is a really powerful item, especially because we're doing all video interviews. Now, I know this is a little bit of a stretch, but we all are made up of energy. We're energetic beings. And so you lose a lot of power in the interview by not exchanging energy, by being in the room with somebody. So we make up for that with our cheat sheet. Thank you for doing these live streams. Absolutely. Let's see what else is coming through. Thank you. I'm also referring your other videos to better prepare myself. I think there's like 330 videos on that YouTube channel now. So there's a ton of content. One of the items that I want to recommend with my YouTube content, and this is one of the items I would recommend for all YouTubers, it's really not talked about a lot. You may land on my YouTube channel or somebody else's YouTube channel and go to their most popular videos. Okay, those are good. Go to my most recent videos. I work with clients pretty much every single day of the week, 7 days a week. So what does that mean? It means that I'm learning every single day. I'm having small upticks every day. I'm getting better every day at what I do. So that means the most recent content that I put on YouTube is going to be the best because I'm learning and getting better constantly. So I do recommend that just double down on that newer content. I think there's going to be specific things that people want to look up, but I would just say my content has gotten better. It may not have the number of views because things are much slower now, but I like my newest content the best. We're out of questions. I'm going to prompt on my services. If any additional questions come up, I'm happy to answer them. Practiceinterviews.com. You can get the half off of our interview mastery course just today if you use the coupon code HALF. I do one-on-one interview and one-on-one negotiation coaching. Everything's one-on-one so that I can really focus in on my clients. Join our free Slack group. Check out those 9 free resources. If you like what I'm doing today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, I go live 10 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday and new original content every other Monday. Awesome. Hey, Jeff, thanks for the live stream. My recruiter asked me for my total comp expectations before we move to the team matching stage to see if it matches with theirs. I've been in process to December. What would be a great way to push back and talk to them after the team match stage? You simply say, I'm interested in having that conversation. Like I definitely want to talk about comp expectations, but I don't have a confirmed team. And I want you to come back and maybe tell me if you have a confirmed level. Are you at team match pre-HC or post-HC? You could be giving comp expectations. If it's team match pre-HC, you could tell your recruiter, I'm not HC approved. I don't have a level confirmation. Without a level confirmation, it's really hard for me to give comp expectations. And if they say, well, you should know your comp expectations regardless of level, you can say, no, level will ultimately determine my comp expectations. So at this time, because I haven't met the team, I don't have my level confirmed, I don't know all the responsibilities of the role, I'd really like to wait until after HC is approved, and then we can talk about comp. Really gracious and kind, but yeah, you shouldn't be talking about comp until everything is confirmed. HC approval, team is matched, etc. Yep, there's a video. If you just type in interview cheat sheet, even if you just go to basic YouTube, I'm probably one of the first 3 hits on that video. So could you use ChatGPT to help you create that? 100%. I use ChatGPT for everything. So absolutely, you could utilize that for sure. Hey, Max, my TVC 1-year contract approval was stuck for a couple months. It got approved yesterday and I'm starting in a month. Contracts now require SVP approval. Yep, everything requires approval. Okay. I mean, Max, that's amazing news. I'm glad you got a TVC 1-year contract. Let me know if you have any questions, but get after it. If you got it approved, remember contract roles are negotiable, right? Even if the recruiter at the external firm tells you it's not negotiable, you're just eating into their margin. Google doesn't care. So let's say the company Google pays them 100 an hour. They want to pay you 50 an hour. You ask for 60 an hour. They say Google won't do that. That's not true. You're just eating into their 100% increased margin, right? So contract roles are negotiable. It doesn't mean they'll actually give you more, but it's worth negotiating if you haven't. Slightly different topic, but can you talk about how recruiters use LinkedIn's open to work, specifically that view that's only open to recruiters? Yeah, it's just an uptick. Look, I'm a recruiter, and sometimes there's some feedback out there. It's like open to work is low hanging fruit. Well, it makes it easier for me. I know you're going to be open, engaged, likely to get back to me quickly. Whereas I reach out to Jane, she's working, she doesn't have open to work. I don't know. So it's a feature on the back end that they can tap into to make sure they're reaching out to people. So even if you don't want public open to work, which I still do recommend if you're actually looking, now, if you have a current job, that can be a little trickier, but it's just a feature that allows them to search on people who are open to work. So I would absolutely leave that on if you're open to work at all, right? Keep it open. If you're not happy in your job, always leave it open. If you are actively looking, you've been part of a layoff, you're not actively working, I 100% recommend having the open to work on your profile. And you can do a million great things if you're open to work. You can add an attachment to your resume in the about section. I saw a woman yesterday who commented on a LinkedIn post. She created a website just a simple Wix website to put her resume, have some recommendations. I mean, it was genius. It probably took her very little time to put that all together. And it's very simple. That's a great way. You can do that by turning on creator mode to add a website. I definitely think anybody who's open to work, I would absolutely use Canva to create a really good LinkedIn background photo. I would say seeking software engineer positions, or in your case, Zachary, it would be seeking product and program manager opportunities. And I would put my phone number, I would put my email address in there, path of least resistance, call to action, make it easy for me to reach out to you. Just some recommendations. Again, if you want to keep it more confidential, always keep on that recruiter button. We almost always want to be open to opportunities. Why wouldn't we, unless we're incredibly satisfied with our job, which I don't think is a large percentage of people. When do we normally see an uptick in job listings during the year? It seems that currently there are more open roles than 4 to 8 weeks ago. Is it expected to go down during the summer? I don't think that we can really classify any time as an uptick because every year is totally different based on economic conditions. I agree with you. We have seen a little bit of an uptick in jobs over in the last 4 to 8 weeks, which is great. Is it going to get slower during the summer? I think it's just going to be super slow in general. But I don't anticipate any big upticks coming in the next 18 months. I hope that helps. It'll be an L4 SWE, but I still before HC, I think. Tom, yeah, you really got to push back. Comp expectations. I really prefer to talk about comp expectations once I have my level approved by HC. Thank you so much. And if your recruiter pushes back, it's like, that's ridiculous. And by the way, they're kind of wasting their time too. So, yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. Push back in a really gracious and kind way and just stay strong. Are people still getting extensions such as an 18 months expiration date instead of 12 months, or were those special cases? I believe from all the data I've been given that that's a one off. Yeah, that those are one off cases, that there is no set criteria. So it's just going to be interesting to see what happens as we get closer to the freeze and like that kind of after freeze time, what happens. And we'll just have to track and monitor, but it appears that it's going to be a case by case basis. You're welcome. Canva. Well, I am a huge fan of Canva. It's just such a great tool. It makes things a lot easier, a lot simpler. The sizing is right, whether you're going to be doing a LinkedIn background photo or presentations or anything. It's a free tool. I have it upgraded. I don't really know what I get for the upgrade, but I mean, I like to support their business. I think it's a great business. But for the LinkedIn background photo, get creative. I changed my LinkedIn background photo. I think maybe Friday of last week, maybe Monday of this week, maybe it was yesterday. I don't know. I just play around with it. I'm constantly changing it. Should constantly be changing and tweaking it. Your LinkedIn profile is I think about it like a living, breathing thing that just needs to be constantly updated, monitored, changed. And anybody who's here knows I'm very active on that platform. Trying to get my posts up to 5 to 10 posts a week at a minimum, just to bring good information and content to the platform. But I get very confused at the missed opportunity on LinkedIn. I don't understand why people aren't utilizing it to their benefit, because there are a number of benefits that are actually measurable and trackable. You will see a difference if you optimize your profile. And by the way, it's never going to be 100%. Is mine 100%? No. There's some features that I should probably be using. My company page is just basically a blank shell. I could do a lot more work there. So there's always chances to optimize and improve. I did do a LinkedIn poll, and I think it was like 13 or 14% said their profiles were 100% optimized. I love to look at those profiles because in my opinion, it's pretty much 0% are optimized. And that's basically what I see even from people who coach on LinkedIn are calling themselves LinkedIn experts, and I call myself an expert. My profile is not 100% optimized. We'll also put in a plug for Canva. It's one of the most used tools. I think people love Canva. They're crushing it. So good for them. They created something that's incredibly usable, user friendly. It has a couple things that I think I've hit up the product managers on that I didn't love. And by the way, that's another thing. This is like a total sidebar, but when I don't like something on a platform, I just go right to LinkedIn and I send product managers at that company feedback. I just copy and paste. And I say, hey, Sue, hey, Jane, hey, Bob, what's up with this feature? Why is it wrong? Product managers want that feedback. And Zachary, you know this. I always give that feedback. So sometimes that can lead to enhancements for the entire user base. Sometimes they don't know that that's an issue. So it's a good thing to do. We are at the end of questions. I think this session kind of picked up some really fantastic momentum. I always get a little scared in these lives as they tend to start pretty slow, but the community always shows up. So thank you so much for being here. I will have a new piece of original content out next Monday. I think I'm going to focus. Pretty sure the topic will be informal interviews, like when we're doing networking and how to manage those situations. I'll be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time with the live. Half off of the interview mastery course if you use the coupon code HALF. That's available just till the end of today Pacific time. I do one-on-one interview, one-on-one negotiation coaching. You can find all that at practiceinterviews.com. Free resources. Join our Slack group. If you liked what I did today, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Have a great day.